Phil Tippett's Mad God is a 2022 mixed media, but mostly stop-motion animation, horror movie from special effects legend Phil Tippett. It is without question the most visually beautiful film I have ever seen. And if you're familiar with me and the type of thing I find beautiful, you should already be preparing to throw up in your mouth a little. Mad God asks us to step into a world where hope is impossible, where life is created merely to suffer and be discarded, each character trapped in an endless cycle of futile struggle, controlled by unthinking and uncaring institutions whose true intents are impossible to know. A putrid, moldering hellscape of enormous apocalyptic machinery, powered by hideous, biomechanical creatures, held in endless, agonizing torture. Every inch of surface area caked in rot, feces, rust, and effluvia. Why would anyone want to watch something like that, you may ask? The answer is quite simple, my friends. I have been open on this channel about my love for what I believe to be the most important and least appreciated aspect of horror media. I am, of course, referring to the wet puppet. For those that are new around these parts, a wet puppet is a puppet that's been spritzed down with some kind of goo to make it look all alive and gross. Mad God doesn't simply have a wet puppet, it doesn't simply have a few wet puppets. It does not only usurp the previous wet puppet champion of planet Earth, society, but does something unthinkable. The movie itself is just one big wet puppet. Each and every scene has some sort of pulsating, ooey gooey mess spewing out other goos onto other gooey messes. The wetness of the puppets in this film is quite simply out of control. Sorry, that's not very professional of me. I just haven't been sleeping well lately. You know, I'm just so tired. Not really sure why. It's either because of my crummy old mattress or the shadow man that watches me sleep. I can solve at least one of those problems with today's sponsor, Helix Sleep. Helix Sleep makes premium bedding and mattresses designed for your exact needs. We're talking a full range of sizes and options, baby, all made perfect for your individual sleeping needs. Thanks to Helix's Sleep Quiz, which matches you to the mattress that's best for your particular snoozing style. Now, hey, you know me. I got a terrible achy back because I'm a 1,000-year-old boomer, and I sleep on my side because if I sleep on my back, I snore real loud and then my wife hits me with a pillow. So Helix recommended me the Twilight Luxe, and it treats me just right. And it even sounds kind of spooky. How on brand! This mattress is hella firm, but still feels soft, quite literally the best of both worlds. I've been sleeping so well, I can't even hear the Shadow Man scratching notes into the roll of parchment that he carries for some reason. It comes in this tiny little box about the size of a dog coffin, and then inflates into a mattress size. You don't even gotta worry about getting it through doors cause it chips all small like. And this is perhaps anecdotal, but I've had far fewer nightmares where the Shadow Man shows me the exact moment where I die. I barely ever wake up to his chilling laughter anymore. And you can sleep easy knowing that each Helix Sleep mattress is backed by a 10-year warranty and a 100-night sleep guarantee. If you're unsatisfied with your mattress for any reason within 100 nights, not only do you get a full refund, but Helix will even pick up the mattress for you. They got all sorts of financing options and flexible payment plans and stuff like that, but between you and me, come here, let me tell you a little secret. You can get upwards of $200 off a mattress and 2 free pillows by going to helixsleep.com/scaredycats. Link in the description. Now don't tell anybody, because I could get in real trouble for telling you this, but we're friends, so I didn't want to keep it from you, you know? And now back to the show. A word of caution before we begin discussing this film in earnest. No, wait. I have the world's funniest joke. A word of caution before we begin discussing this film in earnest, scared, stupid. If you're the type of person who would be upset by, I don't know, hypothetically, seeing one puppet being forced to eat the shit of another puppet, this one's gonna be a challenge for you. I still think you should try to watch it. This is the type of movie where even if it challenges the limits of good taste, it's still something you should at least try to experience. But please, for the love of God, do not ingest any mind-altering substances before watching this movie. You would regret that decision. Mad God is the love child of Phil Tippett, a stop-motion animator who's worked on everything from RoboCop to Star Wars to Jurassic Park and, of course, Coneheads. Tippett began production on this movie in the year 1990, after RoboCop 2 wrapped production. And I don't think I need to remind you that RoboCop 2 has one of the greatest bits of stop-motion animation in cinema history. became disillusioned about the future of the medium of stop motion after working on Jurassic Park and shelved the project for 20 years, before finally getting a little bit of that Kickstarter money and producing it independently. Let me state from the jump here, I'm a little uncomfortable reviewing this movie because it's such a deeply personal project, such a labor of love, such a work of unparalleled mastery, undiluted by any sort of commercial intrusion. My thoughts feel completely irrelevant. Who the hell am I? Who is anyone to criticize this? What would you compare it to? Feels to me like that would be criticizing someone's diary entry. Like, who cares what your opinions are on it? It's a thing that exists purely for its own expression. Your input is unnecessary. I strongly encourage you to watch this movie for yourself. You can stream it right now on Shudder. I can't really communicate to you what watching it feels like. It would be like trying to describe an orgasm to somebody that's never had one, except orgasms feel good, and watching Mad God feels... well, it doesn't feel like an orgasm. I don't know, delightfully awful? Everything you see has gone so far into a horrific, disgusting, nightmarish direction that there's this sense of glee in seeing how far it can push you, just how bad it's gonna get. And the craftsmanship on display is constantly striking, with a dizzying flurry of influences. Everything from H.R. Geiger to those weird troll figurines that some people have to Zdzisław
Beksiński.
It all meshes together and into one visual cacophony that is at once overwhelming, but always eminently readable. No matter how complex whatever you're looking at is, you always know where you're supposed to look. The film maintains this deliberate focus in a way that feels effortless, like it's magic. You might notice that I've kind of danced around talking about the story of the movie, and I don't really know how to convey that to you. Like, I could describe the events as they happened in the movie, but that would do so little to make you understand how those events feel. On papes, it sounds very straightforward and unremarkable, because the events of the story aren't really what's important. What's important is how that story is told to you. There's no dialogue in this movie. Characters will occasionally make sounds that approach being full words, and sometimes either babble incoherently or speak some language that the audience is not privy to, but the story is conveyed through the environments. Even explaining the literal events as they happen is kind of difficult because so much of the story is deliberately left to the viewer's own interpretation. There's no hero, no villain, no narrative structure to cling to at all. Let me give you a taste of that, in case you'd need that type of thing. A lone figure called the Assassin is lowered into a post-apocalyptic world through a diving bell. There, he encounters all sorts of mutant creatures and all sorts of otherworldly apparatuses, which both create and kill and maintain all sorts of miserable biomechanical creatures. He goes through destroyed cities full of bizarre mutated guys. He finds a hall of giants whose heads are constantly electrocuted to induce them to shit endlessly. We see that shit funneled into the mouth of another giant whose guts are used to make Bezoar-like drones, which the machinery around them seems to delight in killing. The drones carve meat from enormous insect-like creatures, which is processed into God knows what. The beings in this area seem to follow the instructions of a mechanical creature made up of various screens showing eyes and teeth, screeching in a baby's voice. Some sort of pit boss, with breasts for testicles, whips the drones while they attempt futilely to wipe its ass before being killed in a torrent of its shit. The assassin is carrying a briefcase with a time bomb inside. He descends into an ever-increasingly cavernous world to drop his payload, only to be grabbed by some sort of monster the moment he sets the charge. Then we see that the final cavern he found himself in is piled high with similar briefcases, because this has all happened endless times before. His briefcase, like countless before it, fails to detonate. Hey, are you mad that I gave away the whole story of the movie? Don't worry, because all of that happens in the first half hour. There's another hour of movie after that, and all of that is as straightforward as the narrative gets. It gets weird after that. Hopefully you're starting to see why recounting the events of the story doesn't really mean anything. There are some consistent themes that emerge that we can talk about. The sense that life is a vicious cycle of birth, suffering, and death, the strong or powerful abusing the weak, people devoting themselves to Byzantine systems they do not understand which treat them as disposable, religion and the military, which are virtually intertwined in this world, are treated with particular skepticism. The movie opens with a passage from Leviticus describing God's capacity for cruelty and petty revenge, and shows religious figures willing to send thousands of people to their certain doom for little, if any benefit. We see icons of religious worship piled high, indistinguishable from a kitschy statue of a pig in a chef's hat. And war has torn this entire world apart. In one area of the map, it seems to just continue forever unabated. Tanks firing on other identical tanks, no flags or insignias to indicate which side of the conflict anyone is on anymore. Just endless, unthinking slaughter. No one is able to consider the human cost anymore because lives are worth nothing. Even our main character, or characters I guess, are wearing World War I era military uniforms with gas masks. The war rages on even though it's made the surface of the earth unlivable, which I must imagine makes whatever conflict began the war irrelevant. Often characters treat cruelty and torture as entertainment. An audience watches a silhouette pantomime of a man being dissected behind a curtain. They're laughing to themselves. The surgeons bow and receive applause. In a brothel, a woman moans in sexual ecstasy as she is stabbed repeatedly in the chest. One creature kills its pet's mate and laughs at its mourning. There is no pity here, no empathy. It is kill or be killed, sometimes both. This focus on the cycle of death and rebirth, of life and decay, that all things rot and that rot gives way to new life, which itself rots. Our dying world births new worlds, where the same conflicts happen forever and ever. A man brushes the cobwebs off his collection of clocks, and as those clocks count forward, they are again covered in cobwebs. There's a constant visual motif of clocks, often clocks speeding up or slowing down, even ticking in reverse or without any discernible pattern. To me, this seems to suggest that in an endless cycle like this, one moment is about the same as any other. There's an ephemeral beauty to some aspects of the world, but ultimately, that beauty gives way to the same entropy as destroyed everything else, only to be born again ad nauseum forever. So then, the question arises, what kind of mad god creates life only to let it suffer and die and recreate itself forever? From that description, it might sound like a depressing, nihilistic movie. And maybe it is, I don't know. But I didn't get that feeling from actually watching it. It's far too playful for you to really get bogged down in the misery it depicts. There's a sense of revelry in the absurd terribleness of the world it takes place in, where everything is ugly, gross, and painful. You're not really meant to take it all that seriously. It's virtually a comedy. And I mean, you could just as easily interpret beauty giving way to ugliness forever as ugliness giving way to beauty forever. They're two sides of the same coin, in much the same way that the movie itself is ugly and disgusting, but also beautiful and affecting. Mad God takes an absurd universe where we are born only to suffer and die, and makes it fun. It's complicated, I don't know, it's not easy to sum up or put into a box. It is a work of art that is better to experience than to have described to you. But it is a challenging and upsetting work of art. Some people will not be able to stomach it, and I'm sympathetic to that, but if you can, I urge you to check this one out. There is nothing else like it, and there never will be. And let me state this for the record, the puppets in this one? So wet. So very wet. Some of the most saturated, dewy puppets I've ever seen, just utterly drenched. You could drink these puppets. Don't drink them. They will give you a staph infection, but you could. If you want to slop some dripping, dank, sopping puppets all over you, you will never get a better chance than this. Every puppet on Earth is wetter thanks to this movie's existence. Scientists will look back at its release as the beginning of the great puppet flood of 22. Don't you want to get an eyeful of these ooey, gooey, glistening, moist little puppets? You can practically feel the viscous jelly drizzling onto you, drowning you in puppet fluid. I gotta go.